Close your eyes. Imagine it is Saturday morning. You've launched Black Friday. Everything is fun. Everything is fun and dandy. The day itself was really good. You achieved all your targets. What is next? Everything I look at, everything I really pay attention to, if we're running to, say, the homepage and we've got this ad, it's getting a ton of engagement, but nobody's clicking through, it might be a good idea to send that traffic to a page that is something that tends to happen throughout this year is a lot of top performers will be really product agnostic. After I'm done looking at platform-specific performance data, what I will do is I will check I love working with Pilot House because while we are a performance marketing agency, we really pride ourselves on caring so much about brand and creative. At Pilot House, we don't just make ads, we craft them. Every edit, every word, every scroll-stopping detail is built with purpose and care, and I truly believe that care drives creativity and creativity drives results. Our attention to both scale and brand allows us to craft strategies that deliver you short-term results while making you long-term successful, which is so important for any DTC brand. If you are curious about learning more about working with Pilot House, you can fill out a lead form at pilothouse.co and let them know you want to go on a brand new ad venture. You don't actually have to say that. You don't have to make a pun. I'm not going to force you to make a pun. Just fill out the lead form. We'd love to chat with you. Hi, welcome back to Ad-venturous, the podcast produced by DTC and hosted by me, Aves. Today, I thought I would keep the episode super short, super sweet, and really give you guys some advice coming into this weekend. Obviously, if you're listening to this the day that it came out, tomorrow is Black Friday. Oh my goodness. Oh my gracious. And then the following Monday, get this, Cyber Monday. Crazy how that happens every single year. So I thought I would give you guys a really tactical walkthrough of how I go about making creative optimizations throughout this weekend. It is not my favorite thing to do, working on a weekend. Who loves to do that? No one. But I will say, if there's one weekend to work during the whole year, it's probably Black Friday weekend, right? There's no pressure on doing it, but in my experience over the past couple of years, this is something that I really prioritized. My partner knows. He's ordering food, bringing me in food, and we don't make a ton of social plans. Well, we don't make any social plans on that weekend, and it's just an understood thing at this point that I'm going to be pretty in the weeds over Black Friday weekend. But again, that being said, if that's not your jam, don't feel like you have to. I just have noticed there is definitely value and lift to be found if you are going in, wrestling around, and optimizing and launching creative over the actual weekend itself. I think this year, especially with the Andromeda rollout, you're going to see more benefit to launching more content that's diverse in nature. So yeah, a good idea. Again, you don't have to, but this is just how I do it when I go about optimizing during the weekend. All right. Close your eyes. Imagine it is Saturday morning. You've launched Black Friday. Everything is fun. Everything is fun and dandy. The day itself was really good. You achieved all your targets. What is next? This is really embarrassing for me to admit, but the first thing I do, probably throughout the 3-week radius of Black Friday, but especially on this coming weekend, the first thing I do is I open Ads Manager and I look at how we're doing on Meta, and then I open Shopify, and then I use any sort of third-party tools like a Northbeam, and I go in and I check performance. Literally the very first thing I do, which is, yeah, embarrassing. But who needs a life when you can optimize ad creative on the weekend? Anyway, I do that because, again, I'm lame, but I do that to level set for myself. So something that I find happens for me personally throughout this weekend is I'm also just online a lot. So I'm seeing a lot of new ideas from other brands. And sometimes in the past, I've been kind of trigger happy where I'll see someone doing one trend and then I'll just get in, make it for a brand and launch it on the weekend. But that isn't as fruitful as actually going in and mucking around and analyzing ad creative at a very rapid rate. I'm fortunate enough to work with some of our higher scale brands, so I am used to ad accounts where during this period of time, we are spending over 6 figures a day. And that means that I'm getting a lot of results that I can analyze. If you're spending less, this won't be as fruitful because it takes a little while to get learnings. But I wake up Saturday morning, we've spent over $100,000, well over that on ads the day before. I'm clocking in, I'm looking at what actually performed. Not only do I look at what actually performed when I'm doing my kind of meta check in the morning, I look at who it's performing with, because this is just part of my everyday process anyway. So I go in, I look at top performers, usually around like Black Friday. What I do is I look at our top 20 ads in terms of actual spend, because I work with one of the most brilliant media buying teams of all time. So I trust that those are the ads that are actually performing. And then I also alter my view a little bit and I start to look at things that have gotten a ton of clicks, because it is a different time of year and that is a metric that matters to me. I'll come back to that. I look at kind of a top 20 in terms of like what have we actually spent on, isolated to Black Friday ads. So I'm not looking at like standard top performers that are maybe just getting a boost. I'm looking at net new content that we've made for this sale, what is working, what is not. And then I look at, like I mentioned, who those ads are working with. And then I look at comments. Last year, I might have told this story before. It's like my fondest memory working in this industry. There's a bunch of people who left comments on an ad that I made that was so like the truth of what I was experiencing. And the caption on the ad was like, "I'm so tired. Like, please click this ad and buy something. Like, I have made like 50 ads today," kind of thing. And it was getting a lot of positive engagement, which made me feel really good. And people were saying that it was funny, which, like, if you make ads, like if you work in the creative strategy realm and someone says an ad you make is funny, that is resume worthy. That is so nice. People on Meta in comment sections are not kind. So if you could achieve that, it's incredible. So that quick story from last year. But yeah, I check comments as well to check on like sentimentality. This is something I really want to do. I also will kind of orbit around post-purchase data quite heavily, always, but specifically on this weekend, because I want to really figure out if people are responding well to the angle. Something about me and kind of when I work with partners, and same with everyone here at Pilot House, is we do understand like what makes a good offer and what doesn't. And we are here to help partners really formulate the best offer so that we're putting our best foot forward. So I'll look at comments, not so much to stroke my own ego, like if it happens again this year as it happened last year and people just like the ads I've made. Not with that intention, although that's a nice byproduct. What I'm really doing is I'm going in there and I'm making sure that people aren't complaining that there are products sold out that are included in the ad, making sure that people aren't confused. People will often take to Meta comments specifically to let you know if your phrasing is confusing or if the offer itself isn't that attractive to them. So I really like to get a pulse check on just how the offer is sitting with folks by looking into comment sections of top ads, and like I mentioned, also looking at post-purchase data there. And then, like I mentioned previously, I do like to look at the ads that are getting the most clicks, because this is a really interesting time of year. So you see a lot of net new traffic coming in just because you are running a sale, which is cool. It's fun. It's cute. But what you want to make sure you're doing is double checking who those ads are going to. Again, like I talk about this so much, both on this podcast with clients, with other folks internally at Pilot House. It is so important to understand like who these ads are actually going to, and you can check that. So why would you not check that? But I also like to see like what is the demographic breakdown, age, gender, all of that jazz on the ads that are getting the most engagement and excitement, because it's often those ads that I find myself iterating on. The ads that are just doing well are usually ads that I knew were going to do well because I like my job. I think I'm pretty good at it. So it's like there's not ever a ton of surprises, and there really shouldn't be in your top sale content. But where I do find surprises and kind of nuggets of gold and little threads to pull at is in the sort of top engagers. So you can set up a report to see like who's actually commenting on ads. And then you can also just check very quickly to see like what ads are generating the most clicks, which is like kind of an easy poor man's way to do it. So when I'm looking through ads, and again, I'm on a time crunch, I've got this offer going to like Monday or Tuesday, what I'm looking for is like a lot of excitement, but not a lot of conversion.
necessarily. And I look for that because those are really easy ads to iterate on, in my opinion, and not just in my opinion, in my experience. So, in my experience, the ads that are getting a lot of attention and excitement on Black Friday and sort of into that weekend, they're probably doing that for a reason. So, a really common scenario for me that I found is I I don't know how to tell you guys this. I lose my mind in November and in early all of December. I love Christmas. So I go bananas crazy in these months. And some of the ads that I make are truly so unhinged and untethered from reality that there are definitely times where I notice that they're getting a lot of engagement and people are commenting like, this is really funny. I love this ad. Great job to the marketing team. But they're not converting, which means I'm not really doing my job and I've lost touch with the like fibers of reality a little bit. I'm just doing a stand-up set through an ad account at some point. So I take those ads that are doing really well, getting a lot of attention, and I figure out how to tinker with them enough to make them convince someone to convert. So sometimes that is as simple as changing the landing page destination. If you have listened to this podcast before, you will know this about us over at Pilot House, but we've got a proprietary piece of tech called Warp Drive, and Warp Drive allows us to test landing pages at scale. This is specifically important. So what it basically does, if you're a tech savvy person, is it allows us to change out the URL on the back end of an ad. So if we're running to, say, the homepage and we've got this ad, it's getting a ton of engagement, but nobody's clicking through and actually purchasing, it might be a good idea to send that traffic to a page that is built for conversion metrics. So maybe a collection page, or also maybe specifically the PDP, because we might just be taking new traffic, sending them into the homepage, everything's on sale, choice paralysis hits, and they just bounce. So Warp Drive allows us to switch those links out in the back end and make those decisions and those changes during the weekend, which is so important. It's not rebuilding a campaign. It's just simply switching out that landing page to squeeze out that extra performance, which I have seen create a ton of value, especially in that exact scenario I just talked about where, you're seeing a lot of people clicking through, but no one really converting. Switching on a landing page is like the number one thing on that exact ad to make a difference. The other option, if we're just looking at actual creative optimization, is I tend to look at what's winning, look at what's getting engagement, and sort of poke apart what is different about the two. So what I might find is maybe this like in creative copy that I have is really making people engage. It's really making people excited, but it's not necessarily converting. What I'll then do is, this is really common again. So you've got that in creative copy that's really doing numbers. People love it. They think it's funny. And then you've matched it with like kind of an unhinged piece of B-roll, which I am known to do and love to do. And it does tend to work. But if it's not actually driving the conversions, what you might think about doing is a really simple swap of the visual, swapping it to something that is a little bit more product focused. So maybe a product demo, kind of walking through, showing the features of it, and you just stick that really funny in creative copy on top of it. That is like a really simplified way to describe what I'm doing. I usually have two monitors, and like I said, I'm looking directly at both what's getting engagement, what is converting, and I'm trying to find blank spaces in between them, because that is where you can really start squeezing the rag dry and making creative iterations that actually do matter. I'll also genuinely look at like just the whole account, which takes a lot of time. But again, I don't make any social plans on the weekend. This weekend, I'm in my office. I've got my candles and my sunny angels, and we're all hanging out in here and putting in the work because it's fun and I have goals that I'd like to hit. And I'm excited about hitting them. Anyway, I check the account holistically because I also think it's really interesting as someone who is focused on content and creative strategy to look for the ads that I myself thought were going to do really well. I've got brands that I've worked with for like years now, so I should have a good idea of what's going on and what's going to win. And so I check out the concepts that I was most excited about that fit into sort of a contrasting bucket, and I see if they're doing as well as I maybe anticipated. And if they're not, sometimes I go back to the drawing board with that same angle in mind, but I try to represent it in a different way. It's really, to me, fun to tinker in this way over the weekend. And like I mentioned, some of the top ads that I saw last year were born out of this kind of quick, scrappy iteration effort of mine. So I think it's definitely worth it if you really do own an ad account. What I do next, after I'm busy looking at Meta, maybe, Snap, Pinterest, AppLovin, good Lord, all of those platforms, whatever we're running on, after I'm done looking at like platform specific performance data, what I will do is I will check Shopify. And I check Shopify because I want to know what people are actually buying. I know, shocking. Something that tends to happen throughout this year is a lot of top performers will be really product agnostic. So it depends on the vertical you're in, it depends on how the brand is set up. But because of that, because we see a lot of like text only styles winning, we see a lot of content that doesn't actually include product images, it's really interesting to go in and see what people are actually buying, and to check what has been going on the product side, and specifically on the SKU variant side. If you are a brand that runs quite a few different SKUs, I always have my example mug brand that I use. So if I've got the same mug in a bunch of different colors, I really pay attention to what colors people are actually purchasing versus what colors are popping off on the ad side. And if I see there's maybe some random not top performer that's rising to the ranks because we've got a bunch of new traffic coming in, they like something different than a regular customer, I'll make sure that I create ads sort of in the moment with that other color. Again, just constantly like looking at different things when we're doing these kind of on the weekend quick iterations to get extra performance juiced out of the account. I'm looking at like what is expected, what is happening, and then I'm filling in the middle as much as possible to make sure that, yeah, I'm just putting my best foot forward in a way. The sort of third step in all of this is I will also consider spend estimates. So if you've been following along, first step is looking at all of the different ad accounts, all of the different platforms, and then we look at Shopify, we see what people are actually buying, and then I check out where are we pacing in terms of efficiency. And it depends on your familiarity with that sort of data as a creative person. I assume if you are listening to this podcast, you mostly like to make ads, and that's really cool and fun. And I love that for you because I love that for me. But if you are familiar with the numbers as I am, it's important to also sort of clock your own tea in a way and make sure, because it's something that happens to me over Black Friday weekend personally, is I'll go in, I'll do my analysis, and then I want to make like 5,000 ads. Okay. I want to make 5,000 ads all the time, but it's particularly potent on Black Friday weekend because I know if I put in that extra work, we will make that extra money. And that really excites me again as someone with goals who wants to achieve them. So that is just exciting to me, but I want to make sure always that I'm not overproducing content and that I'm also not risking efficiency by just going kind of cuckoo crazy in an ad account and creating a bunch of net new content. So I really pay attention to what our efficiency is looking at for sort of the weekend as it stands, whether that's on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I look at what we were sort of projecting to spend, where we're landing realistically. And then I base my content delivery for the weekend on those numbers. This isn't something you have to get like too into. Like if you're just planning on making like 5 extra ads on a Saturday, you really probably don't need to consider this. But like I mentioned for myself, I will spend like 12 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, making new ads if I think it's going to move the needle. So just making sure that you're applying the same sort of layer of thought, analysis, and strategy when you're making new content is really important. Again, even if it feels like you can make anything and put it out there and people are going to be excited and want to purchase, it's still important to like come to these decisions and then sort of triage your builds based on priority and also what can realistically be launched efficiently into the ad account. The last part of what I do is I actually get into it and I make some content, which is to me like so fun. It sounds so lame and earnest, but it is such a good time to like get into Adobe or like get into Premiere, sometimes CapCut. I love going nuts in CapCut. That's how I describe it to one of the brands that I work with. We think it's kind of funny. Just heading into CapCut, going insane, finding some exciting visuals and making the silliest videos of all time. It is like truly a joy to me. So that's the final step, pretty obvious. Actually put pen to paper and make your content. One little additional tactical tip from me is I this is, again, really lame, and I talk about my iPad so much, but I write everything that I plan on doing day by day on my iPad in a list in this cool notebook app that I have. But I find that really helps me not make kind of rash decisions. So heading into the weekend, I've already chatted with my team and I have kind of told them I will send everything over that is net new and it can be launched after 3 p.m. our standard time on Saturday and Sunday. And it's kind of expected that, like, I will deliver content by that time and then they'll launch it. I think it's really important to have those conversations. And also, like I said, really important to set out your to-do lists before you're actually in it. So I tend to try to structure this around creative range and content types. So I will sort of give myself a rough outline for each day. So, like, I want to create maybe an example, 4 net new short form video ads, 4 net new like creator focused ads, and then 4 net new static ads. I'll write that down and then fill in the blanks as I'm going through the process of analysis that we kind of walked through at the beginning of this podcast. Just so, again, I'm sort of beholden to some strategy and some like preconceived notion of what's going to work. Of course, there's always room on the weekend of Black Friday, Cyber Monday to like really go nuts and just make cool stuff. But I try to structure it as much as possible because it makes it easier for me, but it also makes it easier for the team launching the content, which is important because they're really cool and I want to be respectful of their time. But that is a quick rundown on everything I look at, everything I really pay attention to. I'm very excited for this weekend. I hope you have a great Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. And I hope that this was helpful. And if you do work on the weekend, just know I am too. We can be in it together from far away. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Well, you know what? Don't hit me up on LinkedIn because I'm not going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to be making ads. But yeah, we can be together via the internet. If Warp Drive sounded interesting to you, which it is really interesting and it's a really huge strategic advantage, or any of the other sort of strategies that I talked about in this episode, you can feel free to head over to the Pilot House website and fill out a lead form. If you say you came from the Ad-venturous podcast, we can chat directly about anything that you kind of need help with. Another option is you can always reach out to me on any of my socials as well. If you have any specific questions, like I mentioned, maybe not this weekend because I will be a little bit busy at making ads and making money. But other than that, my books are open. We are always around to help with any of these questions and really excited. We're already starting to talk with brands about 2026 goals and how we can support them in that. And it is just, yeah, always a really exciting conversation to me. I love scaling brands. Dude, I love it. It's so fun. It's so cool. And I do think, as a little sneak peek into next year, creative is just getting more and more important. So you're already ahead of the game if you're paying attention to it so much that you're listening to some woman yap about it once a week. But it's just getting more and more important in terms of how we scale ad accounts and how you find winners, not only on Meta, but beyond. And the effect that brand has and content has is, I think we haven't seen the full strength of it, which I'm really excited for. So yeah, like I said, if you're curious about any of that, go fill out the lead form. And you can say you just came from Ad-venturous and then we can talk directly. And that's it. Again, best of luck this weekend. I hope Black Friday, Cyber Monday is like the best for you. And I will chat to you next week.